is so high. If you don't know how to fly, aim easier to make you fly. Sky is so high. If you don't know how to fly, aim easier to make you fly. Here we go.
Okay, good afternoon again. Let's start the class.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Guys, please come in a little early, 5 minutes early. So that you, good afternoon, so that you don't lose your time, okay? I'll be starting from the beginning because we missed out yesterday on some things. So, I'll just go through what we went. Are you able to see this module 5 flight kitchen operations?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So this is the introduction to flight kitchens. Flight kitchens are those kitchens which serve food to all the aircrafts. They cater to all the aircrafts. We have many aircrafts leaving the airport every day, international flights, domestic flights. In thousands we have takeoffs and landings, and every aircraft has to be catered for with all the items, whether it is perishables, meaning things which can get spoiled, or non-perishables. That could be like biscuits, tea, coffee, and other items. And perishable items are like the food that we eat, which milk, yogurt, all these things, your curries, your non-veg, everything that can be. Everything is loaded onto the aircraft. There are thousands and thousands of things that are loaded on the aircraft. The catering department also loads not only food, but they also load the equipment that you need in the aircraft, like the hot cups for boiling water. The ovens are checked. The food is loaded in the ovens. The trays are loaded in the carts. They give you bread, they give you ice, they give you everything.
Ma'am,
So, all this load.
can you wait for just one more minute?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
You let me know. So as I was explaining, flight catering is a very big business. As many airlines that we have in this world, that many flight catering companies, they are each trying to get a contract with one of the airlines. The airlines choose their catering companies. It could be Oberoi Catering, it could be Taj Catering, it could be Chef Air Catering, it could be LSG, as you can see. Different airlines choose different caterings. They make a contract with them for 3 years, 5 years, 2 years, whatever. And then if they're not happy, they change the catering company. So we are going to deal with how the catering company works. Because if you work in the hotel industry, you will also come across flight catering. You will have, the meals have to be made and dealt with. The flight catering industry is a very large global activity. The total market size is estimated to be 12 billion euros, euros being the currency for Europe. More than 1 billion passengers are served every year. It is probably one of the most complex operational systems in the world. For instance, a large-scale flight catering production unit may employ over 800 staff. I'm sure they are more than that, and they produce as much as 25,000 meals per day minimum. Large international airlines have more than 1,000 takeoffs and landings every day. Single long haul is 8 hours and above flight. Airlines may have more than 1,000 have 40,000 items loaded on it before it flies. So the aircraft is very heavy, it has all these items loaded. Altogether, these items, you don't have to read this part of it. These items range from, what are the items that they load? They load meals, toilet bags, duty-free goods, first aid boxes, newspapers, headsets, food items must be fresh and items for personal passenger use must be clean and serviceable. What is the personal passenger use items? They are blankets, they are headphones, they are your personal viewing, the TV, and you have all these buttons on the seat which give you all possible things. You get a table, you have a reading light, you have your chair moving buttons. You can make it like a sleeperette, you can sit straight, you can lie down, you can do this. All these things must be cleaned and made serviceable apart from food, because especially the tables, the linen, the tablecloth, the cutlery, the crockery, the glasses for every sector, fresh items are used. They are never repeated. All the used ones are taken off at the next station and the new ones are loaded. These facts and others like them make flight catering unlike any other sector in the catering industry. While the way food is served on trays to airline passenger bears some resemblance to service styles in restaurants and cafeterias, the way food is prepared and cooked increasingly resembles the food manufacturing. Where am I? Just a unit. So I'll show you these. These are the catering vans. This is a typical catering van at the airport. It goes up like this, and this part joins the aircraft. The food is then taken from here to here. There are people coming, taking out used food, putting in new food. These are catering vans, all at the airport. You can see two of them. This is how all the vans come when the airport lands, when the aircraft lands. The catering vans are here. These are the baggage trolleys, the cars for passengers, the engineers. All this thing, as soon as the flight lands, all these people have to come and overtake the flight. Again, this is how. Here, these are the doors of the aircraft. They are open. Always, I had told you all earlier when I did my classes with you all, that the right side of the aircraft is used for catering and cleaning. Passengers never get off from this side or get on this side. They get on the other side, the left-hand side of the aircraft. This is the right-hand side of the aircraft. When you look at it from the tail section, so the vans come here, the cleaning van will come to the next door, the catering van will come here, and they will cater the food for first class, and economy. These are the typical galley in the aircraft or the kitchen of the airport. All the dry items are put here by the catering staff. In these, the trays are stored, the meal trays, the food trays. These are our ovens. This is a better picture. Okay. These are our carts, which when open will take 32 meal trays in one cart. So when you count, it will be 32, 32, 32, 32 like this. Ovens take 32 meals. 32, 32, 32, 32, this way. These are hot cups. Again, equipment given by the catering section. This is a hot jug. You get 24/7 hot water. Here is the buttons for switching on the ovens and the bun warmers. There are warmers up here. It's now not loaded. There are warmers in which we keep the bread to warm the bread. These are removed from this section, and each one of crew member takes one and goes to their area where they are supposed to work with all the meals loaded on top. I'll probably show you one of the things. This is your regular tray. When this is the tray which is loaded inside the carts that I showed you. It has fruit, it has bread butter, it has yogurt. It has a cutlery set, it has a napkin, and this main meal is put in, this is called a casserole. 32 casseroles are put in each oven with the meat. These are 90% cooked. When we go on board, we switch on the ovens before the meal service. It is frozen. It is also frozen by the catering department and put inside the ovens. When we have to do a service 1 hour before the service, we remove all the ice and we switch on the ovens and we thaw it. Thaw means let it come to normal temperature. And then we heat it up and put it on the trolleys and take it for the passengers. All tea, coffee and all items, there will be a cup, there will be no tea, coffee, there will be a small glass, no juice. We will be putting that stuff later. Nothing is there. I'll show you how the empty, this is how passengers sit, this is how the cart is. Covered, it comes, everything covered, it comes covered. You have to remove the cellophane paper to plastic to eat it. So this is salad, dessert, it's always on a tray, yogurt, teacup, bread and butter. This will be put by us and this will be served by us. Also this will be served to the passengers. So the trays are kept chilled by the catering staff. They have to give us these meals. They give us non-veg and veg meals depending on passengers' request and a little more. If there are 200 passengers, they give us about 210 meals, just in case you drop something gets spoiled. So that is the way. So they give us extra. This is first class. There is no tray given here. You have to lay the table. This is appetizer, this is salad, glass of white wine, small pastry, your knife, fork, spoon, napkin. This is how we have to lay the table. Again, red wine, one glass of wine. The trolleys, they are taking out the trolleys, loaded with stuff on top. This is first class service. The trolleys are not taken out, the carts are not taken out here. Here there's a trolley with all the items. This is how it is served in the cabin. The meal trays are here and the meal, this is liquor trolley going out. After the liquor trolley, there will be meals here going out. You will serve veg and non-veg as per the passenger. You just keep this main meal as per the passenger's request, veg or non-veg. Okay? I hope you are following me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. This is a typical service in the aircraft. So this is how it goes. So these are the meals catered for it. Meals are prepared like this in thousands. They're putting the main meal and then they will stack it up in the carts this way in the ovens. Meals are prepared much in advance depending upon the load of passengers, how many passengers there are. The airline has to give them a figure. Okay, we have 200 on this flight, 500 on this flight, and then they will start making the meals. Meals are made like this in bulk. You have hot and cold. All the raw materials are washed, clean, cut as per menu, specifications, and then sent to hot and cold kitchens. Depends what has to go to the hot kitchen, what has to go to the cold kitchen. Again here, meals being made. So this is how the meals are being made. Certainly the hot kitchen in a typical production kitchen is no more than 10% of the area. The rest of your area is used for bonded stores. Means to keep trays, trolleys, flights, other things, the glasses and all that takes more space. The way food and equipment is stored resembles a freight warehouse. It looks like a warehouse, how it is stored. That only the kitchens you will be able to see. And almost certainly there are far more loaders and drivers employed than chefs. More than chefs, they need delivery people to deliver to each and every aircraft and remove it from the aircraft. The way food and equipment is stored resembles a freight warehouse, and the way meals and equipments are transported and supplied has a close affinity to military-style logistics. Means it's almost like a military thing. Everything has to go on time. It has to have a routine. It has to have a proper organization. You cannot afford to get late. You cannot afford to delay a flight. And at the last minute, so it's very difficult to get meals at the last minute. So they have to be well planned for any emergencies. Variety of items which must be loaded for a service during a flight are considered. Together with that, the need for them to be loaded at widespread locations. The logistic complexity is obvious. It requires a lot of logistics to be able to make meals on that big scale. They have to plan, they have to get organized, they have to have the manpower. It's a big industry. It is not surprising that the president of KLM Catering once said flight catering is 70% logistics and 30% cooking. It's more the organization that is difficult than the cooking. Role of food on board. How important are food and on-board service to the airlines? Some airlines use food as a marketing tool. A number of airlines advertise their product by making the food a focal point. But food as a marketing tool has only limited impact. Surveys over a number of years suggest that passengers appear more concerned about safety, on-time performance, scheduling. So here they're trying to say is that airlines market their products in different ways. Every airline has a strategy for marketing the airlines. You want more and more passengers, so you have to market the airline. If nobody hears about your airline, nobody will fly at your airline. Nobody will fly with your airline. So what happens is, how do you market? Some will say that, we serve the best food. Some will say we are always on time. On-time performance is the highest. So no delays. Some will say that we have the best equipment on board. We have Wi-Fi. We have a lot of leg room for passengers. Tall passengers need a lot of leg room. They like to be comfortable, so they want to sleep. Those who go in business class want to work, so they need computer and they need Wi-Fi and they need all the equipment. So each one looks for their. Majority of the passengers look for safety, the safety record of the airline. If there are any mishaps with the airline, if there are problems with the airline, other people look for on-time performance. Also, people look at the pricing. They like to buy if it's a cheaper ticket because tickets are very expensive. The other thing is legroom, as I told you, the checking in, and word of mouth is very important, because if you have flown the airline, I'm sure you will talk about it to others and others will talk to others. So word of mouth gets once you have a negative view of the airline, it's going to go everywhere. There are a lot of people who like to eat on the aircraft, so for them, which is a very handful of them, most of the people don't like to eat, but a handful of people like to eat on the aircraft. So in that case, their main criteria would be food, which is a very low percentage, but so most of the person will not look for food. But still, this means that while food is important, it is unlikely to be the deciding factor in the passenger's airline choice. This is most clearly seen in USA, where deregulation has had an effect upon competition. They tried, after deregulation in USA, they came up with the no frills airline, which I was telling you yesterday, low cost, low budget, no frills flights. These two are USA flights, Ryanair and EasyJet, and they came with a thing that no food. Tickets will be slashed, will be reduced the price, but we will serve you no food, no amenities, nothing. You probably just get a glass of water. You have to buy everything else. Even if you want to use your headphone to watch a movie, you'll have to pay for that. If you want to have a Coke, you'll have to pay for it. If you want to have a sandwich, you'll have to pay for it. These are no frill airlines. When we have all the services, it's called a regular full service airline. Consumer and media perceptions of meal quality in airlines is low. So passengers and the media all think that the food in the aircraft is always bad. Means taste. So, which could be true because because the food is cooked many hours before and it is chilled and then it is reheated and then chilled. So what happens is that when you chill it and reheat it, you won't get the fresh taste. But they cannot do it any other way because they have to make thousands of meals. It's not like 2 or 3 meals. Also, there are a number of factors which affect the passenger's appetite and behavior while flying. Sensory abilities such as smell, sight, and taste are affected by relatively low humidity and air pressure experienced at higher altitude. So when the altitude is very high, you get a lot of pressure and low humidity, which affects your smell, sight, and appetite. You don't feel like eating. You can't, you don't get the taste in your mouth. You just feel everything is, bad because basically you're sleepy, you're tired, and you're traveling in high pressure aircraft. This affects the taste buds, so the food may not be tasty for them, which may function as much as 30% below par, and the mucous membranes in the nose, which blunts the sense of smell. Because of the high pressurized cold air inside the aircraft, sometimes the mucous membranes in the nose may get affected. Airline food is often more highly seasoned for that reason. That is why they season the food more so that people will get a strong smell of food. Likewise, such as at high altitude, not all wines can retain their aroma and bouquet. Yesterday when we were talking about wine glass, somebody said snifter. It is when you sniff the wine, it is called sniffing the bouquet of the wine. So when you open the wine at high altitudes, we may not have the wine may not retain its flavor also. This is taken into account when wine lists are chosen by aircraft and captains. Also, as passenger movement and exercise is limited, you can't move around in the aircraft much. You can have a small walk, but you can't really go running anywhere. And exercise is not there. You're sitting in one seat for hours and hours and hours. You don't feel like eating much. You feel heavy, you feel bloated, and you don't feel like eating. People who drink alcohol on board, effects of alcohol are more quickly observed in pressurized cabins. Since it's a pressurized cabin and it's strong air conditioning, people who drink alcohol get affected very fast. Drinking 1 glass of alcohol is like drinking 2 glasses of alcohol in the aircraft. So people get intoxicated very fast and get dehydrated also. You feel thirsty all the time, and that's why on a plane you have to keep hydrated by drinking water. Research at the University of Surrey suggests that while food and drink in flight may not affect pre-purchase decisions, it emerges as a significant post-purchase factor, meaning people may not decide to use an airline because of its food and wine, but after the flight is over, people may talk about it and say, oh, the food was not great at all, the food is bad, the wines served were bad. So they have to take into account, the catering system has to and the airline together have to decide which food they will serve and what wines they will serve. They have to complement the food and the wines. Also, every 3 months, the menu is changed. Different kind of food are introduced for vegetarian and non-vegetarian, and wines are also changed depending on the route, depending on the kind of passengers we fly, depending on, like if you go to the Gulf, the majority, I'm not saying all, the majority people would like to drink whiskey and beer. But if you go to Europe, majority people will ask for cocktails, wines, um, aperitifs, all these kind of things. They will not go in for whiskey as much. They might have gin, they might have vodka, but they will not go in. Most of them. I'm just saying general. So this is the kind, so they have to plan what food, what wine they must put on board. The onboard service and meal is the most remembered aspect of the people's travel experience. People who travel frequently don't bother about it, but other people do remember what they have eaten and what they have had on flight. So food service offered to passengers is still an important part of the overall service experience. But as factors listed above begin to suggest, providing a product that will satisfy the customer is much more than providing a ready meal. So even though all these things may happen, still they have to look into the food part of it. The passenger receives a final product that can consist of not only well-seasoned food, but one that is made of many different products procured from different places and through different processes. So the final meal that comes to it could be from one person or could be from different people, but they have to make a very delicious menu. They have to decide with the catering people and the airline people, sit and decide the menu and the wines and try to make it nice so that the passengers travel with you again. Okay. I'll be giving you some question answers also. Questions. Your assignment for the weekend is to find the answers from this chapter. Okay. Now we take the major stakeholders. Who are the people? Who are the people who are the stakeholders in this? The in-flight catering industry consists of 5 major players. Number 1, so you can write major stakeholders in flight kitchen operations.
Ma'am, please repeat once again.
Major stakeholders in the in-flight catering industry, right? In the in-flight catering industry. Number 1, airlines or representatives. Airlines, it's written here, airlines or representatives. Number 2, providers, into brackets write flight caterers.
मैम 1 मिनट बस 1 सेकंड वेट करेंगे.
जी मैम.
थैंक यू मैम.
Second point.
Actually, second is providers, into brackets flight caterers. I've been asked to wait, so till Nargis ma'am comes back, I'll wait.
Okay ma'am, carry on.
Okay. So number 1 was airlines or representatives. My cursor is here, so you can take the spellings. Providers or flight caterers. Number 3, suppliers, into brackets 2 providers or direct to airlines. Into 2 providers or direct to airlines. Number 4, passengers. Can you give me the short form for passengers? Anybody?
PAX.
Good. And flight?
No, sorry.
FLT. FLT. Correct. FLT. FLT. So when you write the short form sentence. So number 4, passengers, and number 5, distributors. Okay. So first, I'll be giving you notes on this again. So keep your papers, pens there only. We'll see who are the major role stakeholders. The role of the passenger. A feature of the airline industry is huge diversity of customers. Huge diversity means different kinds of customers. Prior to the 1960s, air travel was exclusive. Only the very rich or the government employees would fly long haul. People could not afford tickets to America and Europe and all that, so very few people flew, only the rich and the government employees. The development of jet aircraft and charter airlines led to mass air travel. Subsequently, in 1990, a business model was redesigned by the operators of so-called low-cost or budget airlines. So, prior to in 60s, hardly people flew, only the rich flew. 1990s, the airlines opened up, the prices came down, different airlines came in, competition came, so the price war started, less price, more price, this. And finally we came to the low cost or budgeted airlines with the cheapest prices, no service kind of. Then the role of airlines. Airlines are responsible for the design of onboard service. Every airline has a particular way of doing the service. Some may serve, like Jet Airways, while screening movies, they used to serve Coke and popcorn. Air India, where I was part of it, we served peanuts, moong dal, and Indian snacks and drinks. So each one has a different service. For breakfast, there was sometimes for vegetarian medu vada, upma, idli. It used to change to poha or uttapa after every 3 months. For the non-vegetarian, there was poached eggs, there was scrambled eggs, there was omelette, depending on every 3 months. For the meals, vegetarian is always a dal and a curry, the vegetable changes. For the non-veg, dal and chicken curry and rice. Some airlines would give puris, some would give papads, some would give pickles, some would give rotis. All service is different. Even the odors during the service was a wide range variety. Some were very, very expensive, odors like caviar and exotic fish and all that, chicken liver, depends, everybody. So the airlines have to sit and design this onboard service. This is affected by the time of the flight. It depends on the time of the flight. Do you have that much time to serve that much food? If it's a short flight, it has to be just plated meals. They are given in a plate already plated. If it's a long flight, like to US or to UK, to Paris, to London, then you have to do the serving from the trolley. So depends on that time of the flight or the length of the flight. Time of the flight, if it's leaving in the night from here, they give it accordingly. Like India's flight, Bombay, USA, starts at 1 o'clock in the night. Now, 1 o'clock in the night is sleeping time, nobody much eats, everybody's tired. People have already come to the airport from 10 o'clock. So they've had their meals in their house at 9 o'clock. So at 1 o'clock, when they board the flight, they're going to be hungry. So after takeoff, at about 2 o'clock, we used to serve them biryani. Veg biryani, non-veg biryani. Little heavy, not too heavy, small portion of it so that they eat and then they sleep. And next meal would be directly after, say, 7 hours, and that would be breakfast. So this is the way you have to, it depends on the length of the flight. It depends on point of embarkation, means where you have boarded the flight, and it depends on disembarkation, where you're going to get off. If you're going to get off, like like from the USA, you land there at 7 o'clock in the morning. So according to that, just before landing, everybody is served breakfast. And when it leaves India, point of embarkation, it's served biryani. In the middle, there is another full service also. So it depends on embarkation and disembarkation. Nationality, it depends on nationality. If there are a lot of Indian people, you will probably get Indian food. If there are a lot of foreigners, you will get more of continental food. If there is a mixed, you will get mixed. You will get half Indian, half continental. If there are more, if the flight is going from here to Shanghai to China, you will get more ethnic people, more Chinese traveling, so you will get Indian and Chinese. If you're going to Japan, you will get Indian and Japanese food. If you're going to Italy, you will get Indian and Italian food. So it depends on. Other than that, food can be ordered also when you buy the ticket. If you want any particular food when you buy your ticket, the passenger can ask for it. He can ask for baby food, he can ask for Italian food, he can ask for any food. And it will be the catering department has to see that his order is there. Okay, they have to see how many seat class, how many economy, how many business, and how many first class passengers they have. They have to depend on that. If there are 200 seats in the economy and say 25 seats in the business, 8 seats in the first class. So depending on that, they have to design the service. A budget allowed by the airlines, how much the budget the airline is willing to give for food. Price of food, seasonality of food, whatever in season. The fruits that are in season are generally ordered, like in May they give you mangoes, or then there is watermelon, there's pineapple, depending on the season. Cost of labor to make a food item, time required to serve the food, number of flight attendants available to serve the food, time needed to eat the food, consume the food, ability of meal to be consumed in the small place and plate, how much they think. These are all logistics, how much they think that a person sitting in one seat is going to eat. Time and effort needed to clear an item, the needs and the desires of passenger, odors, smell that may penetrate the cabin. They cannot have very strong smells in food that, like garlic and onion, is mostly not used in the food because of the strong smell. It goes all over the cabin. Those who are not used to that food, like Westerners, they don't like the smell. So they have to make sure that the cabin does not smell. So especially onions and garlic is not used. The ability of the meal to be rethermalized means the meal should be brought down to room temperature, reheated again. The ability of the meal to withstand low humidity and pressure. It should not get spoiled in low humidity and the pressure of the aircraft. Given this long list of variables, these are the long list of variables. It is not surprising that the nature of onboard service varies widely from flight to flight and airline to airline. So this is the role of the airline to sit and design all this as per designing this goes in a meal. So just having a meal on board is not easy. There is a lot of planning going into it. Then we come to the role of caterers. Caterers have two main roles: to prepare items not bought in directly from. Now what happens with these caterers is sometimes the caterers, they cook everything, right? They cook the main meal, the rice, the chicken, the meat. Sometimes they buy things ready-made from us, like suppose pastry or a small cake. They need about 200 trays, so they need 200 small pastries. They may choose not to make it, but to get it directly from somebody else. They may ask a cake supplier to supply them 200 cakes every day. for the next 3 months before they change the menu. So they can either make it or they can get it from the supplier. Caterers have two main roles: to prepare items not brought in directly from the suppliers to a state ready for loading on board, and to assemble the trays and trolleys. They do the assembling of the trays and trolleys as well as loading on board, and they prepare the items which they have not bought from the suppliers. Flight kitchens are always located near to major airports and are usually used to manufacture consumable food items. They mostly, all the eating items are made by them. Sometimes they may give it to another supplier. There are two main reasons why menu items may be made outside of the airport-based kitchens. Because they may not have space, cost of space and cost of labor is very high. So maybe they don't have place near the airport, so they could outsource it to somebody else. Airport space is at a premium. It's very expensive. So it is not feasible for a flight kitchen to produce all the meals needed for every seat class. For instance, some flight kitchens or caterers may make their first class and in some cases business class meals from scratch at the flight kitchen and may outsource all other meal production. So they may make the first class because first class has too many items to eat and business class also has too many items. So they may make that, but they may outsource the remaining to other people, to other caterers, small caterers. The caterer is often in an unusual and sometimes difficult position. Although they are a customer of the supplier, the products used may not be of their choosing and may have been determined by the airline. Sometimes when the suppliers are there, the airline may agree for outsourcing. Even though the caterer does not like the product, they may still have to follow because of the airline. When the products used are purchased directly by the airline, caterers charge only a handling and storage fee for the product, but not the cost of the product. So sometimes the airline may buy the supply like as I said, a pastry or yogurt. Or they have these small packets of yogurt. It could be Amul yogurt or it could be some other brand. When the airline chooses it, airline pays Amul for the yogurt or whatever for the yogurt is dahi, it charges, it will pay that company. But the caterer will pick it up and will store it and will deliver it to the aircraft. That handling fee is charged by them. Only not the cost of the yogurt, only the handling fee for the yogurt. That is what they mean. For instance, all liquor products for tax reasons must be purchased for the airline, either through a prepaid arrangement, through prepaid with a distributor, or through an arrangement whereby the charges are directly invoiced to the airline. So it's either the airline will prepay for the liquor or direct billing to the airline. However, the caterer is responsible for keeping and accounting for any such products because caterer knows how many bottles are to come on each aircraft, how many are finished, how many need replacing, all that they have to do. These products are usually delivered directly to the caterer's bonded store. They are a bonded store, it goes under lock and key, it has to be all the paperwork has to be done, everything is fine because liquor is very expensive, and so they have to make a list of the things, items procured, the list of the items replaced, list of the items consumed, all that they have to do. The challenge of the caterer is that the products are the property of the individual airline served by the caterer. So it is not the caterer's this thing, it belongs to the airline because the airline has prepaid for it or is going to pay for it. It is only going to be served by the caterer. Products belonging to another, to one airline cannot be used for another, even if two airlines use identical products. So even if two airlines are serving the same things, you cannot use one airline's products for one. I'll give you 5 minutes break, and then we'll come to the role of suppliers and distributors, and then I'll give you the notes. Okay, I'll give you the notes after that, so take a 5 minute break. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Any questions by anybody? Anybody didn't understand, want to ask? No? All okay? Okay. If not understood, please let me know. I'll be giving you these notes for these in short so that you can read and study. Suppliers may supply in-flight industry in two ways. First, based on planned menus, the supplier receives direct orders from the airline. Although they deliver the goods to the flight kitchens operated by the contracted caterers. So the suppliers will be given direct orders by the airline as to what they want, but the items will go to the kitchens, catering in-flight kitchens, and they will be serving it. Airlines buy direct from suppliers because they want. Why do they buy direct? Because they want to have continuity of supply in all stations. So they may take a particular item and they want it to be the same everywhere, so they may choose a supplier. Because also they can negotiate a discount, they can get a discount when they buy in bulk. Also they want to maintain a particular brand image. They want good stuff. Like I explained to you, a simple thing like a yogurt. They may want Amul only, they may not want anything. If they directly purchase from Amul, they will probably get a discount. So it depends. So that's why they prefer to deal it directly. Though Amul will deliver it to the in-flight kitchen, they will put it on the trays and then it will come to the passenger. Second, the supplier may supply the caterer directly. In second case, the supplier could supply the caterer directly with products that meet the contract specifications, with whatever specification they have. Likewise, suppliers have two approaches to manufacturing their product. Some supply airlines or their caterers with standard products, while others make and supply specialist products specially designed for the in-flight kitchen. So standard products could be for all the economy class food items. They would have standard menus, but first class and club class menus would differ. They would need specialists to make that kind of thing. In first instance, the manufacture of products is likely to be taken place in a factory or a plant, producing many other products. So like a cake or a bread or a bun, a sliced cake, these small things could be made in a smaller factory with many products. So they could be supplying to the airline. The products for in-flight service may be slightly modified for that market. So it will be slightly changed for the market. For instance, spirit manufacturers need to bottle their spirits in miniatures rather than 4-ounce bottles. Like when the supplier of liquor he supplies to you, he supplies liquor. Since we don't have space, we have to order in miniatures. They could bottle it for us in miniatures. They are called miniatures. The airline serves in these bottles, small bottles. It's one drink at a time. So you could have 3 or 4 of each. This takes less space, and instead of carrying big bottles, because also weight of the entire aircraft is very important for the pilot. So they like to reduce the weight of items. So these glass bottles were later on reduced to plastic bottles. The manufacturer the cost of the food manufacturers could make these items in volume at a lower cost. Sorry, I was here, right? In miniatures rather than 4-ounce bottles. In the second case, the manufacturer concentrates on simply producing a cycle of food items, often providing their sole business, and hence they can put large amounts of items to be sold to the flight kitchen. There could be in certain cases a manufacturer may only make cake or only make bread in large amounts and only serve to all the airlines as a method of outsourcing. So the kitchens, the in-flight, and we want 1,000 dinner rolls, 1,000 breakfast rolls, we want soup sticks. All this comes with so that they can concentrate on making the more exotic food, and the normal food can be supplied by the supplier. These food manufacturers can make these items in volume at a lower cost than the flight kitchen can. Instead of the flight kitchen doing it, the airline takes it from them because the cost is low and it comes in fast. The cost of labor to mass produce meals is obviously cheaper, a good distance away from the large cities where airports must exist. So if they take it from a faraway manufacturer, it will be even more cheaper. Historically, it was mainly frozen meals or top-outs, as they're called in USA, that were outsourced in this way. Frozen meals were, USA has a system of having frozen meals. A lot of people buy just cooked frozen meals and eat it because they don't have time to cook. So they stock their fridge with frozen meals and they just remove a frozen meal for the day and eat. So this came from there, and that was outsourced in a way. So today all kinds of specialist food may be outsourced, such as canapes, ethnic meals, vegetarians, patisserie, and so on. Like I told you, cakes and pastries and breads, and all this can be outsourced. Last we come to role of distributors. Distributors are typically global logistic companies, specializing in moving goods around the world, often in containers. They provide two main services for the airline or the caterers. They can distribute materials and meals from vendors or suppliers to both caterers and airlines. And they can track the number, volumes, brand products they distribute. So they are logistic people, they distribute only. They only give from, take the food and supply it from caterers, airlines, wherever. They have to keep all these logistics numbers, volumes, brands ready. Using a specialized distributor or a logistic company allows the airline and caterer to better manage the flow of materials from aircraft to kitchen and back again. This applies to both short-term food items and to long-term recyclable items, including, so they get a specialized logistic company, distributor, who already knows, and this they will have a better flow of system. There won't be delays, there won't be problems with the food. So till here, I'm giving you the notes. Okay, done. Are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Veena, can you tell me what you can see?
I can see the screen, ma'am.
Okay, flight catering system.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We'll do one more para of this, one more section of this, and then I will do the remaining later. They've given us an illustration at the end of this. I will show you the illustration later. We'll read again. The flight catering system is illustrated in figure 2. This model represents only an outline of the process flow in flight catering. Since such operations have a number of alternative configurations, so there could be changes in it, not of it, but this is a general flow of flight catering. Flight catering starts with an understanding of number of passengers and their needs. So even for flight catering, they have to understand the passengers, they have to understand their travel, their destination, their likes, dislikes, everything. Such information is available from both market research and actual passenger behavior. They question people, they take market surveys, and they ask people as to how, what are what kind of food would you like to eat? What do you find problems with the food? So that they are able to correct themselves as to what they take a survey, say of 100, 200 passengers, and they figure out what passengers generally like and don't like. On the basis of this, airlines, sometimes in consultation with caterers and suppliers, develop their product and service specifications. So it depends on that. When the surveys are done by the marketing people, then the airlines change their products or develop their products according to the wishes of them, because they have to get passengers, so they have to do what passengers say. So passenger complaints are looked into as to what any complaint, whether it is regarding um, vendor or employee, employer, your catering, the cleaning, the timing, everything, surveys are taken and they try to correct themselves to give the best to the passenger. If you want to be in the business, you have to give the best. So such specifications determine exactly what food, drink and equipments are to be carried on each route for each class of passenger. On that they decide what to carry. In response to the forecast of passenger numbers on any given flight, the production unit follows a series of complex steps to produce trade meals and non-food items ready for transportation. So they have a forecast of passenger numbers. They expect a certain amount, like if there are 200 seats, the airline gives them, they have to have 200 meals ready. The airline may want less meals, depends on that, but approximately they know that they will need 200 meals. They will need 200 trays, they will need food and non-food items also ready. Transportation is usually carried out by high-loader trucks, the one that I showed you. These are the trucks which I showed you earlier. These are high-loading trucks, takes a lot of stuff in this. High-loader trucks that enable trolleys to be rolled out on and off the aircraft. I showed you these trolleys. These are rolled in and out of the van. They are taken out from the aircraft van and put it back there. I think they have one picture. These are the seats. This is the galley. From here, the meals will be taken along this aisle, all over. So this section, one crew member will be on the other side. There will be another crew member from this section here, and two people will go with the trolley this way. The carts go out. These carts go out. Can you see this? These are the carts that go out with the meals. So these carts have to be get ready by the catering people. Once loaded, the trolleys and other items need to be stored on board to ensure the microbial safety of edible items. They have to make sure that nothing rots, nothing gets spoiled, because if, God forbid, the food gets spoiled and the passengers eat spoiled food, they are going to sue the airline and you are going to pay a heavy sum to them when they sue you. So they put a case on you and then you're going to be paid heavily. So they have to make sure that all the items are good, safe, there are no problems, there are no cockroaches, there are no nothing, that it's clean and everything. Security and safety of the crew, passengers and the aircraft. They have to be loaded very carefully. They are very heavy and they have to be put in the aircraft in such a way that they do not damage any part of it. At the designated time during the flight, once the cabin in charge decides what time the service will be done, seeing the amount of flying hours and the kind when the passengers feel hungry and all that, taking time into consideration, the service is decided. The cabin crew then carry out service of meals, snacks and other items. Upon arrival at destination, each aircraft is then stripped of all the equipment and trolleys. Everything is removed from the aircraft. Say once the flight goes from here to Dubai, in Dubai, we have a catering section in Dubai also. Every airline will say, suppose we have, say, Indigo. We are starting from Bombay, we are going to Dubai. We have a caterer here who caters to Dubai. We have a caterer there, local caterer who caters from Dubai to Bombay. So both sides there are caterers. When it reaches Dubai, everything will be removed and fresh items will be put. When it comes to Bombay, everything will be removed for the next available flight. So upon arrival at destination, each aircraft is stripped of all equipment and trolleys. which are returned to the production units for cleaning and reuse. In achieving this, it is necessary to understand the impact of flying on the physiology of the passenger, to manage a complex supply chain, ensure safety and quality. So you have to understand the passenger, see that there is smooth chain of operation, see that flight safety and quality of the product is good, utilize increasingly sophisticated information and communication technologies, and engage in research and development for further use. So they have to not only do all this, they have to have sophisticated, somebody's mic is on. Somebody's mic is on, please. Use sophisticated information and communication technologies, and they have to make a market research. They have to develop new models to make people happy. Traditionally, there have been three basic variations in the system. In North America, the basic model was for airlines to take responsibility for determining strategy, designing, selecting offers, item and components, galley planning, and sourcing. So this model was done for airlines to take the responsibility of all these things. Other airlines then contracted out to caterers, storage, inventory control, preparation, assembly, loading, unloading, recycling, waste disposal. All this was outsourced. Initially, it was the airlines who took responsibility for doing everything, but as air traffic grew to a huge size, they could not handle everything themselves. So they had to outsource most of it. They had to outsource inventory, prepare assembly, loading, unloading, recycling, even the waste disposal, they have to outsource it. Caterers then purchased from suppliers the raw materials, components, items that they needed in order to meet their contractual obligations with the airline. So caterers then made sure that they purchased everything from the suppliers, because even they couldn't do the entire thing. So even they can't manage the cooking of so many meals, so they also started giving it to their other people or outsourcing it to other people. Okay, we can, I need to just show you the flight catering logistics. We will do tomorrow. I will stop explaining till here, and again, this is flight kitchen. This is how it goes. This is how the food reception chart is. You have cold storage, means for cold items, dry storage for other dry items which do not need a fridge. Food pre-preparation, including thawing. They need to prepare the food as well as thaw the food. Hot kitchens, it goes to hot kitchens and it goes to chill storage. You have cold kitchens where cold items are kept, tray assemblies, because they have to keep the trays also chilled. You have hot kitchens. Later on, the hot meals are put in blast chillers, chill storage. Then it comes to hot kitchen assembly, tray table assembly, again in the aircraft chilled assembly. It comes from all this thing and dispatch, and it's chilled, dispatched and loaded. Even the vans are chilled from inside to keep it cold. I need to show you, these are huge blast chillers. They keep a lot of food like this. They have huge ones. You can see big blast chillers with lot of food kept in and kept chilled. All these are meals. These are blast chillers. They are high, what do you say? Not like a regular fridges. It has a lot of cooling, almost like being frozen. Big, huge blast chiller. Fully automatic fan for cooling, touch screen control, temperature control. All these food goes into these blast chillers before coming onto the aircraft. If you can see this, These are the trays. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like this cart will take 32 trays total. This is economy section. This is your soft drinks which you're taking. One person comes from front, one person comes from front, one person comes from rear, they meet in the middle. This is how service is done. You can take items in that. Water is taken like this, trays, these are the trays. Water, soft drinks, liquor, and this is juices. Again, service is done like this. Carts are stored in the galley before the service. This is how the carts are, and they have to be locked in here. All these carts are in the catering department unit. They will fill this and make sure. These are also have a electric point at the back here, and when it goes into the aircraft, the system keeps this all chilled, because it takes a long time to serve the meals. The bread, the salad, the sweet dish shouldn't get spoiled. So even this is kept chilled. So they have cooling section at the back. They have chillers at the back to cool these carts. This is how it looks. In different color. Yes. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 trays. Generally you get 32, meaning 16 trays go this side, 16 that side. This is how the trolleys are. This is all given by the catering department. Okay, all are down. You will get like this galley in every section of the aircraft. You will have at least minimum 3 galleys. First class, club class, economy class. Some bigger aircraft will have 4 galleys. So this will be your workplace. This is where you'll have to deal with all 400 passengers. And long aisles to serve. This is hot cup. From here, this is tea and coffee. This is a coffee maker. You put the coffee pad here and you plug it in, it makes coffee. This is for tea. This should be the bun warmer to keep the bread buns warm. This is dry stores. Everything that the catering sends you, dry stores. And this is the oven where that main meal, your dal, rice, chawal, whatever comes here. Again 32. So we have to remove that and put it on the tray. That is, we heat only this portion, the main meals, and this all goes chilled. You have to take it cold only for the passengers. All you do is remove this hot meal and place it on the tray and give it to the passenger. So these are all the ovens. This is the rearmost galley. Big galley, you would have at least about 3 to 4 flight attendants working here, and you would be working from here. You will have not only trays, you will have 2 carts of liquor, 2 carts of soft drink, you will have ice, you will have tea, coffee, packets, biscuits, snacks, everything is loaded in this. And this, what you see here is the trash compactor. It's called trash compactor. It is for the trash. What it does is it squeezes the trash into totally. It is a machine. When you put trash and then you switch on this button, it keeps pressing the trash like this till it is squeezed, so that it can take a lot of garbage. It's called a trash compactor. This is your aircraft door. Again, galleys are almost near to door. This is your crew seat, which is called the jump seat, which I had already explained to you. Again, a big galley, same here. If you can see these are the sockets to keep these carts chilled. This, from here the cool air comes and it's not frozen, it's just kept chilled. So from here the cold air comes and gives a blast to all this to keep it chilled. There is nothing behind this because this is all warm section, this is dry section, this is the chill section. Then same here. These are pull-out tables for you to work on. So you can either eat or you can sit and eat, stand and eat, and work. Again, galley portion. So this was your galley. So have you understood, all of you? A lot goes into this food. Yeah, you've understood. Any questions? Anything you'd like to know? Even otherwise, even if you don't, not relating to the subject, it's okay, you can ask. Fruits also given. Okay. So this is your aircrafts. This is your trolleys. Anything else? Yes or no? So this is your, okay. So this is your flow chart. Go through with this flow chart, and tomorrow we will catch up again. At the end of this chapter, I'll give you a list of questions for the weekend. Your assignment to be to answer that and let Nargis ma'am know. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so we wind up here. Yeah, you have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Welcome. Okay, welcome everybody. Question 3 now is on when the class is over. When I ask a question, he disappears. Yeah, I'm listening. Huh? Where is, why isn't your camera on? Why don't you speak? Or mic? If you don't speak, how are you going to improve? You have to speak. Okay, you have net problem, I understand. Okay, but learn to speak, learn to say something. Doesn't matter if it's wrong. Doesn't matter if your English is not good. Doesn't matter at all. That's the only way you'll improve, if you learn, if you listen and learn. 2 things. Okay, so please make an effort, read the chapter, go into it, because you'll be asked questions. Okay, bye bye, see you. Have a good day.